I think
By
yeah,
30.
they basically said that they were second past, they weren't trying to do that.
By 28.
Now it's gonna be their time.
A little fast.
Main thing is
Because
that
I tried
Trying to get out
quick
of it.
break here.
But the arts and culture is what they do, but they're not, so we're just gonna get figure that out. But it was interesting. How you doing?
Good. All right.
Okay. Hold on a minute.
No, he wasn't at work today.
Okay. You were in the So I dropped it off.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Oh, yeah, he'll be at work tomorrow.
Looking off of Verizon time, it is now 5:30. All right, good evening, everyone. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is November 14, 2019. It is 5:30 p.m. and this is the regular work session of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. I apologize. I tried to muddle through it tonight. I started coming down with something, but I couldn't miss because I was told ahead of time that the vice chair would not be here tonight. I knew that she was going to be here, so I'm here, so bear with me.
Well, excuse me, and I have a really bad cough, so I might have to run out. Every once
We'll be
in a while.
running out at the same time.
Yeah.
I got MRSA. I got y'all beat.
Whoa.
I'll stay away from
This place is falling apart. Well, item number one on the agenda this evening is the handbook that we all recently received. This is the most recent publication that has been put out regarding Urban Renewal Authority. It was put out by the Colorado Municipal League, and it was mainly authored by a gentleman I got to see today, Mr. Benedetti, Paul Benedetti. He's a Wassenberg native and currently a practicing attorney in Boulder. He has extensive background in urban renewal, and so he put this together. He was present today, offered a lot of information, and I will in reports by commissioners tell you what all went on at that meeting today. So I'm hoping that everyone has had an opportunity to review the handbook. It is very, very interesting.
Did you hand those out the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You didn't, well, we didn't have, they're an electronic form.
Oh, okay. I haven't
Okay,
checked.
so if you're
No,
welcome.
they did hand us out one.
Oh, did they?
I think. No.
Did you? Okay.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Yes, she handed this out.
Okay, so you do, okay, so you have it. Well, we'll get
I'll
you.
print it off at the office.
Well, as an FYI, what you have in there is a condensed version of this. Okay, this is a Colorado state statute that is basically the Bible for urban renewal authorities. Some of it dates back to way back when, and some of it has some revisions, but this is what this booklet is. It's a condensed form of this, but this, it says a lot. Now, one of the things that probably everybody, I know the newer members do not have, but this is the booklet that was put out when we originated in 2015. So for you two newest members, I will see how I can get my hands on them for you. And speaking of Brittany, at some point you and I have to go to Tara's office, old office, and wherever else records for urban renewal might be, so that we can locate stuff, because when her and I discussed it last week, there's a lot of stuff out there that we just gotta make sure that we know where it is physically located. We know there are electronic records, but there are a lot of these that need to be, we know they're there, we just gotta find out where they're there and know where they will be for the future.
I have a pile in my office. I went through it.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll talk about that.
Okay,
more.
yeah, we need to look at it. So that said, everybody had an opportunity, I hope, to take a look at this. Do you have any questions or anything that you would like to discuss? In here, I want to make mention, you're going to see that there's a lot of mention made to House Bill 13 House Bill 151348, which was somewhat of a revision that happened January the 1st. It changes the makeup of urban renewals by the number of people, and we're sort of ahead of them because we do have a representative of the Los Angeles County Commissioners, as you being here. But as of January 1st of 2018, we adopted our plan December 1st of 2015. We were 30 days ahead of when the new requirements would have been. Had this plan been adopted January 16th or later, January of 2016 or later, we would have been subject to a whole different set of, the regulations are the same, but it triggered a lot more requirement in there. So one of the things as we proceed on, anything that we do, we have to be watchful and wary that if we make any changes to our plan that could affect it, we would trigger House Bill 1348. So if you read it, you know, it tells you all that, and it does, you know, this is probably the first revision that's come out since this was enacted by the legislature for 2015, effective 2016. But in here it gives you all the information about the powers of an urban renewal authority, the requirements to determine blight in an area. You know, so and it goes on. And so me trying to explain 25 pages would be probably not in the best interest time at this point, nor do I feel that I'm totally qualified to be able to explain all these, but I think I have pretty good comprehension. Anybody have any questions on it?
Is
Any
this
comments they want to make?
Is this available for the public online? Or to the public online?
Yeah, you go to CML. I'm sure Colorado Municipal League
Okay.
would have it available.
Okay.
Right.
I have the PDF.
Cool. Yeah. Would you send that to me, please?
Does anybody have any questions on it? Any comments you'd like to make? Because there's a lot, and probably for you newer members, you know, something, you know, there may be questions on specifics.
No, it was just I found this one sentence that, and it's on, I don't know, these don't have pages, but it has 12 and 13 on the bottom, 12. The one, and right at number 8 it says, urban renewal authorities hold, improve, clear, or prepare any property for redevelopment. And I thought that was the simplest sentence in the whole thing.
There's your explanation, Mike. Or,
Where's that at?
you don't have pages marked on yours?
It's down at the bottom.
And number 4, page 4,
Page 4.
number 8. This whole page was very interesting, but that number 8, I just for some reason outlined, because I thought that's an easy way to explain, because I've had people ask me also, I know, what does TURA do? I thought, I've got to memorize that.
Yeah, that's a lot in a nutshell there. That could be, I don't know that anybody would, but, you know, it's something to give. Anybody else? So by the way, related to that, on December the 6th, they will be hosting an Urban Renewal 101 and 201 in Wheat Ridge. Colorado Municipal League and Downtown Colorado Incorporated, DCI, puts on a lot of educational workshops, and the 101 and 201 are going to be available, and we'll get the rest of that information from DCI and get it to everybody, but that will be available. 101 is the very basics of it, 201 adds on that. So it will be available in Wheat Ridge on the 6th of December. We'll look for that. I might get it, but you'll probably get it first. I did today also update the information because they said our previous executive director has the point of contact on there, so I changed mine and put that on there because they're updating the membership or all the URA information for Colorado.
Okay.
So I changed that out and I have contact information on there now.
Okay. I think I'm signed in as a user too, so.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions, comments? If do as time goes, let me know, and if I can't explain it, I will get an explanation. Item number 2 is the facade program, the facade renovation program that we have put in place for 14 months. And I sent out a revision that I feel is necessary. I sent it out in advance so that everybody could compare it to the language in the old, or the current one that's in place. Did everyone have an opportunity to review that, because we need to discuss certain portions of it?
Yes, I do like the changes you made.
Okay. All right. In the document that exists, okay, the purpose and program delineation, I think, are don't have it happened. Right? They're not written well. All right? We put it in place, but it's not written well. It says certain things that, especially in the program delineation, I think that are inapplicable. And if you look at the information that I provided, I think it gives more clarity and definition to what it is. The program delineation talks about the utilization of the Trinidad Main Street program. I don't think there's any applicability here. It was never really discussed with them, and upon the opportunity to discuss with them, I don't know that it needs to run through there. Those are things that need to be handled by us. I don't think they're equipped to be able to do anything because they don't have funds for one. So cosmetically, I don't believe that it would, even if it is a cosmetic situation that we would be sending to them, they have no way of funding it, so it goes nowhere. The information that I put together, does everybody have it? That would be the old one. Okay. I have changed it, and if you'll note in the program delineation, is there any agreement with me? Does anybody want to change that? But I've taken out the fact that, one, it said that the application would have to go through Main Street. Okay, we're not set up to do that. We're set up to take our own applications. We have an application, and we have, to date, accepted those applications. So that in itself is problematic, because having it go through Main Street group, there's no purpose there.
Right,
Okay.
except the Main Street group should be involved because we need the architectural.
Well, yeah, but I wrote that in there in another spot, we could refer it to if in fact we need to have the services of that History Colorado or whatever else available. I put that in, and let me see where I did that. But I made
It's
the
that
change.
last sentence there under program delineation, I see it.
Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't need to go there. So if you read it as we go, application shall be reviewed by TURA to determine if it's cosmetic or structural. TURA may request applicant provide sufficient evidence that the overall structure is stable as qualification for incentive funds. The way it's written now, this turns around and says you almost have to begin at the point of having an architect or engineer go through all that, for the funds that we have available, or those amounts that we're going to incentivize. Is it worth the property owner to go through all of that? I mean, it's a hindrance. So in there I'm saying that if members of TURA shall be allowed to access the building, interior and exterior, for an initial visual assessment of the building condition and stability. What I'm saying there is any two of us can go look at a building and determine that, no, it's not falling in, and yes, something with the facade. Do we want to go that heavily in depth and have architectural engineering review and make it that much more difficult and make our program dead in the water, dead on arrival? That's one of the killer things as I look at it right now. There's too much requirement for the little amount of money that we're offering. And so that needs to go, I think it needs to be changed. In there, I've also put that one of the things that the applicant needs to do is consult with the building department, with the building inspector, and make a determination that if there's going to be requirement, because I did a year ago a renovation of my house, and I had to have architectural plans or an engineering on it, because there was a load-bearing wall that needed to be reinforced, so it had to be. But and in order to get the building permit, we had to do it. So that's be one of those things where do we not let the applicant go to the building department, have them look at it first to make the determination that they're going to have to have a structural assessment and plans by a architect or engineer? I mean, there's an easy way to do it, and that would be the point to do it, is begin there. I mean, you're gonna make somebody have plans that maybe they're not gonna need plans to do that. And to get maybe $2,000, all that does is add to the entire cost, and it doesn't make it worthwhile till we're looking for 20%, which might be $2,000.
Yeah, you make a good point. Why overthink this when you have a building inspector and a building department? Why should TURA even engage in that? No, I concur.
So as it's written, I mean, it's got its point, but if you read, you know, the program delineation, that's probably the biggest problem that I have with it as it sits right now. I mean, the involvement of the Main Street program, you know, may not be necessary unless somebody's looking for cheap or free architectural advice from the History Colorado. If that's applicable, I mean, that's where we refer it. We need that agency or that arm of the city to be able to access it and make it possible. But other than that, why would it need to go through all of that to get to what we're offering? I spent quite a few hours rethinking this one to get it to where it's at. And I just, you know, I'm thinking the revision, you know, that put out there is, you know, hopefully that's
Who drafted the original?
Greg with our concurrence. So I mean, he put it together, we discussed it, and that's where it finally went. And a year later, when we see that it's, you know, there's minimal response to it, we need to take it out there to make it palatable, and, you know.
Is this the one that he took from Monte Vista and?
No, that's another one. This is one that was put together in-house. Like I say, and it, you know, may have had some applicability, but if you look at it as time has progressed, 14 months later, there are certain parts of this that make it a hindrance, and if I was looking to apply for it, that in itself would take me away from it. And there's easier ways to do it. And I mean, if members of Urban Renewal go and visually look at a building and say, it's not gonna make it another 6 months, I don't think we would be incentivizing any program or any improvements. I think it's just a judgment call, and if you look at it, you know, there's no gaping holes in the roof or anything else that would say, you know, this is not, I think we could simplify it to make it work, to give the program some validity. Commissioner Vaughn.
May I ask, Mr. Valentine a question?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Acting Executive Director. When speaking with the building inspector, I mean, he's also responsible for letting people know what the codes are. I mean, if they're gonna build something, he's gonna ask for plans and he's gonna go through the codes, but he's wanting to make sure that they adhere to the code.
Correct.
But he's not in a position to basically give any advice.
Correct. So, but what I'm hearing, you know, on a case-by-case basis, he can go out, look, and assess and say, okay, this is gonna need engineered plans, architectural plans to run through the building department.
But he can't, can he say, I recommend that you?
No,
Okay,
no,
so
he won't say, I recommend you put a 2x6 beam here or nothing.
Right.
That type of stuff, but he can look at it and say, okay, this falls under a category in the code where you're gonna need engineered plans, architectural plans.
So we need to make sure that we don't assume that the building inspector can do more than what he can do.
You are correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. So then.
Well, it just, listening, it sounded like, you know, we could send it to the building inspector and the building inspector could tell him, you know, wanna make sure that they understand that the building inspector is the first step.
Right.
And that the building inspector can look at a property or a structure and then make a determination, well, you need, basically the codes are this and you are gonna need this.
Right. And are you looking at that? Where I have written, the applicant shall consult with the Trinidad Building Inspection Department to determine that the proposed improvement conforms to municipal building codes,
Right.
allowing for a building permit if required.
Mhm.
So it's a matter of, I mean, you're gonna, to draw a permit, you have to give an explanation of the work. It doesn't,
Yeah.
does the inspector make a visual inspection at that point, or is it down the line?
It's usually down the line when it goes out, but depending on your improvement, it triggers whether you need an engineer or, you know, if you come in and say, this facade renovation, I've got to support these bricks or whatever, he may go out and look at it and say, yep, I'm gonna need engineered design on this. Or if a local mason's gonna do it, he may say, well, you know, they know what they're doing, and so. But,
Did I understand, would he issue a permit before he went out and did a visual?
well,
No.
no,
Okay, all right, then I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
okay,
thanks.
no,
The other thing to remember with this is with these steps is the funds that we grant are upon completion of the project. So we're not giving anybody up front. So everything has to be conformed with in order for them to get the grant funds. So if in fact,
If they don't pass inspection,
they don't, if they don't go through all the formalities, we're not gonna allot any money. You have to go through that part that says, yeah, you know, if they sidestepped anything and it wouldn't pass inspection, you know, if it doesn't do it, it doesn't make.
So, do we provide the oversight then to find out, to make sure that, for instance, we have an application in front of us, correct?
Right.
And, so, are we going to make sure that a building permit was, if we approve this, say for instance, for example, if we approve this, are we going to then, assume that a permit will be issued, that they'll get a permit and do all those things, or are we gonna provide some oversight?
As
With
it's-
this grant?
As it's written now and continuing in the proposed revisions, it states number 9, a building permit must be obtained prior to construction.
Right, I saw that.
Okay, so, when we review the documents, when they said, okay, my project's done, I want my grant or whatever the number is, then we have to make sure that that's where the oversight comes, is did they meet these requirements to get to the end? So you provide the documents, there's documentation to provide going into it, as far as the scope of the project and, you know, costs and everything else. We have to look at that, and it says that on the application. And then the policy as it's written, you know, we'll look at it and say, okay, we've followed through it, it meets criteria, funding is granted. Or certain phases, certain things are lacking, we need it to give you the funding, or you screwed up and we don't give you a dime.
Thank you.
I think the burden falls on the applicant.
Right, it does. It does. But we must be fair, we must be clear about all those things up front, so that they understand, clearly the steps. So that, and the fact that if they don't follow those steps, they can and will be refused funding.
I don't have the application with me, but I believe, well, there's one in here to look at. Let me see, it said, I think there's something in here that makes that determination.
not guaranteed.
Yeah, at the signature part, it pretty much says that, we don't guarantee it. So, again, this is what I'm looking at, open for any comment on it, or whatever revisions or additions need to be put in there. But as I see it right now, which is what we will have to review this application based upon what's currently written. But for the future, I think we need to make some differentiation, as currently written, especially in the program delineation. It was dead on arrival, and it needs to be changed, because I don't believe that, with the inclusion of the Main Street program, I don't think it needs to be there. If we send it on as a cosmetic, it has no purpose for going on, and everything else, we need to handle it ourselves.
So, next question I have is, since we have an application in front of us, do they follow the old one that's adopted, or are we going to make it?
It has to go based upon what's in place today. We got it in, it was received, whatever, today?
I've got it in the mailbox today.
Okay. So if it was received today, these are the guidelines that are in place, so it'll be reviewed and decision made upon what's currently in place. But as going forward, if we're gonna continue with this program, I strongly feel the revisions are necessary to make this thing, it doesn't, for the lack of better wording, it doesn't have a lot of sense to it at this particular point.
And it has no applicants because of it's so complex?
Quite possible,
Yeah.
quite possible.
I wouldn't apply for it.
No, I mean, it asks for too much first, and it's one where, again, it's a town small enough that if somebody mentions a location, I think everyone, it'll come to mind without having to visit. You will go look at it, but you'll know whether or not it's one that has a very short lifespan on it, or, it's one that was, I think in this case, some logic and common sense will tell us whether we wanna work with one or not. But as it sits right now, architect and engineer required on the onset for something that maybe is, how shattering is that? I don't think it is. So, my thought on that is please review that. Do we need to other changes? Let me know, because I'd like to get this, we won't be able to adopt it and put it in place. I don't think this should act, we'd have to have it ready for reading next month.
I just have one grammatical thing I'd like to change.
Really?
Can I tell you about it right now?
No, tell me about it.
It's just real simple.
I knew if it wasn't you, it'd be Carol.
It's real simple.
Tell me where it is. I'll make sure.
It's under definitions, cosmetic improvements, second line, intended improving, just intended to
Yes.
improve. That's simple.
The teacher.
Well, I guess, who I had typed this for me followed the same grammatical error as on our kernel.
Is he blaming
Maybe I was
not
too
me.
timid.
You didn't catch it on the original one, why
I
are
was
you catching
too
it on mine?
timid.
Okay,
Okay, so that's what we'll do. If we wanna make any changes, or, it's there. If it's something that you think is good as written, we can take it forward, have it ready for reading next month, and we can have a revised plan. But we need to, we can't do anything with it till we actually enact it as a board.
Very well.
Okay. Any more to be said on that? Okay, move on to item number 3, the 2020 budget. I've had to do quite a bit of digging and research and homework, because we don't have an executive director. Some of these tasks are going to fall with us as a board. You need to know that last day of January 31st, I guess what it is, we are required to have a budget filed with Department of Local Affairs. And so can't really put that together till after year end, till we have numbers. I don't think we're gonna have much difference on either side of either income and or expenditures. I don't see a lot to change, but that's still a month and a half away. But just to let you all know that, you know, at some point, we need to do an initial discussion, and I want that to happen in December. And we can't finalize any numbers until January, and we have to have that, approved in January, so I can get it filed with DOLA by the last day of January.
So, are we gonna get some advanced?
I'll give you some, and we're going to use a budget. I'm gonna use basically the same format that was used in the prior years. It doesn't have to be, I went and looked at our findings for the last 4 years, my prior directors. The first couple of them were a bunch of pages of everything we did. And it was, you know, it included the budget, but a lot of other stuff that I don't think belonged there. Also, for the last 2 years, we needed to be, budget is due the 31st of January. They got filed in February. So I wanna make sure that this year they're done by the day they're due.
Okay.
Did I provide everything? I thought I had it. It's a small, it's a small document. It doesn't have,
That's good.
contain a lot of information. No, it's not even that big. I thought I printed and brought it with me, but I have to say, it's not a big document. And this is the format that I believe we are going to follow. I thought I changed totally to correct it tonight, but obviously, yeah, I did. This is what it looks like. It doesn't have a lot in this because we're not doing a lot.
Okay.
So therefore, this is what it's gonna do. So it's just a matter of taking the revenues, and we won't know what the final is until, probably that
So
might.
it's really just the top part of this with that.
To some degree, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what it is, but, if you don't have it, this will appear in your February 2014 minutes. If you need to look at it, you wouldn't have those, we'll get those for you. You guys wouldn't have February 14th.
No.
And maybe,
February 14th of 19. If you don't have them, we'll get them to you, but that's all it is. So I'll need, you know, look at current operations, current financial statements, and if there's anything to add to it, because we'll wanna get that, a preliminary next month so that we can have final numbers done in January. We'll accept it, and then I'll file it with the state. Anything else? Item number 4, executive director. In the past, and hopefully as we continue, we will use the services of city staff for handling duties of an executive director. You know, that doesn't mean that's gonna always be the case, and I don't know what we have lurking in the near future where we may need some, direction and consultation. So, one of the things to think about is when we get to that position, how much do we burden city staff with having to do things that may come up that require advice and consultation? Will we pay for that on a fee basis, fee for service basis? There's people that locate to do that. But,
Hey, city staff?
no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, outside.
Outside, yeah, because
Right.
it's one where,
Yes.
you know, it depends on how much background, and again, maybe could become burdensome to city staff to try to handle certain things that may go on with any developments or anything else. You know, if it goes beyond that realm, that it would become burdensome to them to try to handle it in addition to other duties. We may have to seek, something that could charge us fee for service.
Like Malcolm Murray.
Like Malcolm Murray, or there are other people who do
Yeah.
it. It may go beyond the legal part, there just may be other things. And I'm saying, and you know, that's one where, you know, how much burden do we put on staff to be, you know, there's other things that have to be handled, and, you know, these are things that, you know, do we justifiably do it or not? So, something to think about. We don't know where that is, Mike. And the only reason I bring that up is because, you know, with all the duties that you have and you may have and whatever else, you know, do we come knocking on the door to create additional to you that you don't have enough history with urban renewal to be able to make that? Right. I don't wanna make that burdensome for you with all the other duties that you have.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're correct in that. I don't have a lot of history with urban renewal. I have to do that 101 and 201 in Wheat Ridge, basically, but, the city staff is here to help as much as we can, but I agree that, legal counsel or even some kind of a development oversight at times, if that happens. We won't have the staff to do that either, so, it could be built into proposals where, consultant is paid for through whatever project you're doing.
That was my thought, that
Yeah.
we need to make sure that, when we have to go out for fee for service on consultation or whatever, obviously we know what the attorney's gonna charge us, we know how that is, so that's a given. But there are other things that are gonna be not through an attorney, they're gonna have to be through someone else that would do administrative on it. And so if we do that, that's just out there for thought for everybody. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen, it doesn't mean it's on the horizon, but yet it might be on the horizon. And
Right.
so I need to bring that up.
I have a question for you. The new economic development director, does he have any background in?
There he is right there.
Let me introduce Wally.
Molly, I didn't know that was you.
Yeah, no worries.
So,
I do not really have a lot of previous experience in urban renewal. I will be doing as much research as I can to learn as much as I can. Going through the city's strategic plan, there's definitely going to be a lot of crossover between our departments, and I will try and support in any way that I can. But yeah, I have some educating of myself to do before I am ready to just jump right in. But I'm a quick learner, and I am very interested in the urban renewal of Trinidad, and happy to help out where I can.
And I guess the other question to you is, I'm hoping that if we present something to you that is beyond what you can do for us, you would let us know.
oh, yes. I'm not
It's
gonna,
possible.
we're gonna err on the side of caution so that we do everything correctly. And I'll step up right away and say, we need to get a professional in here.
And they are out there, and the guy that used to be the URA director in Colorado Springs at one time, he left them and he went, well, he was there just to consult, he landed up being the director, he went back out, he was the private sector doing those things again.
Is that what
So
you're
those are out
consulting?
there, but DCI could direct us in those areas too. But I just wanted to bring that, because I thought about that as I was doing this report stuff and all this other things, it's like, hey, maybe, there's things in there to be done, but, and there's a point where, how much do I wanna do, and, those kinds of things, which I bring something up to us after that as well. But anyway, it's food for thought. I just wanted to bring it up because it is something to be thought of, because those situations probably are going to happen in the not too distant future, and we may, like I say, I don't want to overburden staff in areas that they're trying to do certain things, but yet don't have the background or don't have the history, and it creates a problem for them, and we don't want to do that. Okay, think about it. Item number 5, a land transfer.
Thank you, Chairman, members. I think you have before you, maybe several maps that Brittany provided. First one being this one here that, has that pink on there. The city has owned this parcel marked 3,659 square feet for 100 years. We've had that. It's, there was railroad through there. It's just been a dirt lot. It's been sitting there. Recently, there's been some activity where developer wants to purchase it from the city or do something, and the city has certain rules on how they can dispose of property. If it's used for municipal use, it has to go to the vote of the people. Well, this wasn't used for municipal use, so we're good there. The other option is to put it out for sealed bid and just let anybody who wants to buy land put a bid on it, and then we would take the highest bid. I don't think that's a good use of our property, so I went to council and I thought, well, we have an urban renewal. Let's deed it to them and let them develop it with your mission of, what was it, hold? Yeah, anyway, and develop it and possibly, it's up to you, if the city council, it was a work session and they said, well, let's find out if urban renewal is amenable to that. We would deed the property over to urban renewal, and then depending on how you wanna do it, you would go out to ask for proposals from developers, and then you could look at it as to the value of what it does to the city. You can probably consider this piece of parcel for a long time to be blight. It's just dirt, you know, it's been dirt forever. We had Marty Feeds in the one parcel there, and then the rest was just dirt, so, I ran this by Malcolm Murray on the city's dime, and said, do we, you know, is this possible? And his response was, yeah, and that's the way it happens in most communities. As a matter of fact, he said, in working with other municipalities, I'm aware of instances where properties owned by the city or town have been conveyed free of charge. Now we'll have to talk about that. Free of charge to an urban renewal authority for use of the urban renewal project, including transfer to a private property party. In other words, urban renewal would be able to transfer based on the value of the proposal and the economic development benefits. Then he goes on to say, I should emphasize that any conveyance by the urban renewal authority needs to be in accordance with the urban renewal plan and consistent with CRS 3125-106, which governs the sale of the property held by urban renewal. And I apologize, I didn't bring that with me.
I can tell you, because I got it right here.
Thank you. Good. So, I'm here before you. I think you might have another map. This is, kind of gives you an idea of the ownership all around this property. And, you know, we were approached regarding that, but,
That's adjacent to Toyota dealership.
Toyota dealership is across Cedar Street.
In the top part up here, right?
This up here is Cedar Street, that's the Toyota dealership.
The backside.
Over here is
City garage?
Marty Feeds. On the other side, the little green block on Commercial Street. Yeah.
Only
The
question I
city
have
garage is over here.
Do you know?
Where's the city garage? Is in the city garage? in
It's
this
kind of
area?
where I put the legend. It's
Oh,
across the way over there.
Do you know if that dirt has been tested for asbestos? With all the brake dust from the rail cars back in the day? That's the only thing that.
I would say probably not, but you could put that in your plan. We, for phase 1, phase 2 environmental, and there may be some city funds through our brownfield. We're kind of almost used that all up, and we're going for the second round here soon.
So has this always been an empty lot?
As far as I know,
I don't remember being there.
yeah, just, there was a rail spur. That's why that kind of an odd curve there. There was a rail spur there that came over onto Cedar, and then this other one that was removed from Toyota that goes across the old trestle there. Yeah.
So all the solid green is.
Owned by,
Keep having it, right?
right, correct,
Good.
yeah. And then the hatch green is leased by Kip Hamden. And
From?
with
But it looks like they're gonna purchase it in December?
Right, the Jerry Mack Corporation.
That's Mac Weldon.
Yeah. And, it's pretty much a done deal. So,
And then
that
he's-
doesn't preclude anybody else. If you notice, Maple Street dead ends right into the property and fronts it. Down here on the bottom of that, Maple Street. But I think, in my opinion, this is a perfect urban renewal type of project.
And Mike, are you including the Hughes lumber property too?
No, that's
Okay.
just to show city ownership.
Okay.
So I could, I wanted to show council and you, kind of get you an idea of where we're at.
But you said you already have someone, a person of interest.
Well, they came forward and, through the city process, we would have to either, like I said, go to the vote of the people. I don't think that would happen here because the rule is if it was used for municipal use, in other words, if we were gonna sell a park that's always been a park for something else, we would have to go to the vote of the people. Or go out to a sealed bid and then it'd be best guess of whoever buys it and what they do with it. If we deed it to urban renewal, you have control of how it's used and it would be for the betterment of the community. If a good proposal comes in that lifts the tax base, I imagine the TIF on this, where it's right now, and you put in something, that values the property up, then you boosted urban renewals budgets also.
We take it back to the tax bills.
Yeah,
Can you say,
good point.
that the offer that did come in, what they wanted to do with it?
I'll to make you
The
some.
people that did wanna purchase it?
Yeah. I imagine, it's,
Did it come in open session?
no, well, yeah. I wasn't in this position when that happened, so,
Okay.
not really.
For everybody's edification, let me give you some information. In that handbook that we just discussed, if you look on page number 4, under number 7, powers and duties of an urban renewal authority. To acquire property by purchase, lease, option, gift, grant, bequest, devise, or otherwise. So that is in the statute, and it says that we can, by any means listed there, we can acquire property. So that can come to us. It also tells you that how you can dispose of it. And the disposal process is that you will, let's see. Want me to read it all?
The highlights.
Well, you need to know,
Alright,
because
just
if we,
easy.
yeah, if we're going to give any kind of an indication to the city council we want it, you have to know what your next step is once you get it. And I will read to you that part of the statute, which is Colorado Revised Statutes 31-25106, subsection number 2. An authority may dispose of real property in an urban renewal area to private persons only under such reasonable competitive bidding procedures as it prescribes or as provided in this subsection. We determine how we want to do that. An authority by public notice, by publication once each week, for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper having a general circulation in the municipality. Prior to the execution of any contracts to sell, lease, or otherwise transfer property, and prior to the delivery of any instrument of conveyance with respect thereto under the provisions of this section, may invite proposals from and make available to all pertinent information to any person interested in undertaking to redevelop or rehabilitate an urban renewal area or any part thereof. Such notice shall identify the area, any portion thereof, and shall state that such further information is available and may be obtained at the office, blah, blah, blah. The authority shall consider all such development or rehabilitation proposals and the financial and legal ability of the persons making such proposals to carry them out, and may negotiate with any persons for proposal for persons or proposal for the purchase, lease, or other transfer of any real property. We're seeing basically you put it out there and you take proposals, and then you weigh the abilities or capabilities, both financially, legally, and otherwise, to be able to carry out their proposal. So when you accept it, ask, you wanna buy the land, and what will you do with it? And then you have to take the legal and financial capabilities of that person to execute what it is that they say.
Did I misunderstand the beginning of that, where we had to put it out to bid?
I think that was an either or.
It's either or.
Okay.
It says, as bidding procedures as it shall prescribe. Okay, so that means we'll make that determination of how we're gonna do it.
So, for instance, if we took on this property, the person of interest that has already come forward, we couldn't act on it for that person, we would have to put it out.
Task
We have to
We have to
advertise.
make it-
Correct.
Make
think
it
it'd be-
available to anybody who might want to develop it.
Yes.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
very clear.
Let me further read to you, okay? The authority may accept such proposal as it deems to be in the public interest and in the furtherance of the purposes of this park. And, okay, then it just goes to tell the legal requirements of when it has to be. So it's saying that when you weigh all those, and, part of it has to be in the best interest of the public for whatever's gonna happen on that land. So whatever they say they will do, can do, it has to be for the basic public, the best public interest. One other thing in here, I read it, I can't locate it right now, but the methodology by which you sell it out is not fair market, but fair value. It's not fair market value, it's fair value. There's a differentiation in there, you're a realtor.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Well, basically I deal with assessed and market.
I think put the cart before the horse, we're getting ourselves in trouble. The bottom line, I think the city wants to give us some land. Do we even just make a decision based on that? Instead of thinking of, we got a developer that wants to do something with it. Because what happens if that flakes out?
But
Yeah.
this urban renewal authority has to know what
Yeah.
lies ahead if you take it. And that could be the same thing, is we're sitting on 4 lots around the city. This may be the way we just put them out there, is take proposals, instead of going through all the other processes. We can just say, we're gonna, we got 4 others to think about as well. This may be the way we do it and get those things sold and back to the tax rolls, which is, what I'm looking at. But I just wanted to make mention of what the statute says, is because it's not only do you accept the land or you take possession of the land, so we wanna do something with it thereafter. Would it be, you gotta know that we wanna do something there forward, or do we wanna sit on it forever, like those have been with the urban renewal since 1960s. So I just wanna make that out, there's not for any particular purpose, but just to make sure that everybody knows that when Malcolm Murray made mention of that CRS, that's what is in there.
Well, and I think the city wants to do the same thing, is give it an opportunity to have some kind of developer. And this is the best way for them to move forward with this property. And again, I don't know who there's other developers, but you guys know deals flake out at times, funding goes away. But at least we have it in our possession for some urban renewal development, and this is probably the more prime piece of property that we have compared to the other 4 that aren't very attractive for a commercial activity.
Well, and I think, what's being said here is we have to make sure that we know how to dispose of it properly.
And it says right there.
According to the statute, which you just
I
read.
think that's
And
pretty
that
clear.
we need to be very careful about saying, well, we have this piece of land, somebody approached us and we can just sell it to them. No.
We gotta follow the statute.
No, we cannot.
Well, the statute and the plan. Because we have a file plan with the state, with DOLA, when we order it.
Right.
So if and when it gets to that position, and I say if and when we would get to that position, we would make sure that Malcolm Murray will be reviewing it to make sure that whatever's gonna happen with it prior to its offer for sale and prior to the acceptance of any offer, that we fall within the legal parameters that does not affect us and put us in non-compliance with what we're obligated to do under what we filed as a plan.
Yeah, that's my question.
Sure.
In the green area, is there anything planned for that yet?
Nothing yet. Right now, it's just parking overflow, I guess. They are, I will say that they do have a plan with the area. That's why it's solid green and hatched green. And we're in the middle. So there, full disclosure, there is a plan.
Based on that, statute, then, so for instance, this is land that is appealing. We have other lots that we have received that are unappealing, right, that we've gone through. So say for instance, another, piece of land comes up and we look at the land and say, no. Can we can reject that and say no?
Sure. You mean if, like the city wanted to deed you more lots here and there?
Yeah, out there in,
I think, what, Mr. Gray read was you have the authority to accept.
that's
Right.
right. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that we could reject.
I got some beachfront property.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I guess what I'm looking for, I know this is on work session, there's no decisions. Are you amenable to looking at this? 'Cause I'm looking for something, where cause city council, same thing, they said, well, yeah, let's see if they're amenable. City council's amenable. No decisions, I'd have to put it on the agenda of city council to dispose of the property. And then it'd be on your agenda to accept it, so.
I'm willing to give it consideration.
Yes. See?
Yeah. Is there any more questions?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And come down to the nuts and bolts of it all, that is the reason that urban renewal exists, is to be able to assist the mothership in doing those kinds of things.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the, discussed land transfer? Item number 6. Items of discussion that you would like to have on the agenda for future work sessions. The next meeting will be December the 12th, again, the second Thursday of December. Does anybody have anything they would like to put on? Now,
I would just like to get through this facade program and have it finalized.
okay. Well, I asked them that everybody review it, make any changes to it, grammatical or otherwise. And get it to Brittany.
Oh, now I'm really gonna look at it.
Do you want to be copied on it or no?
No, you can't. Okay. You can't, but Brittany, if you send it.
Between you and Brittany?
Pardon, no, Brittany's on the administration side, she can, if it comes to her, she can send it out, but we can't communicate more than 2 of us at any one time and not jeopardize open meetings. Unless we all decide that at this certain day, at this certain bar.
We all show up, and we have a meeting. All right.
You can't discuss anything though, chance meetings, you can't say a word.
Well, we can say a word.
The other thing, Brittany, is we need to take to Audra the fact that my term is up, February, so here in the next, 30 days or whatever it is, it has to be sent out for letters of interest, so that can be, because, that appointment has to take place in January, so that my term that ends in February
You think?
can be filled.
So are you interested in staying on?
I'm thinking about it. I'll give it some thought.
Good start.
The ball and chain, connected to your chair.
Give it some thought. But anyway, and because I had forgotten in the past, I mean, it had been put out there, but I wanted to make sure there's plenty of time, because we need to make sure that it happens, in sufficient time for it to get the letters in, that council can review them, interview, and be able to make that appointment for January, so it can take place in February.
One question, with this new updated stuff, you mentioned that commissioners had to be, or one commissioner had to be on board. Does it say anything out regarding at-large members, or would that be a conflict of their new rules?
Under the current, and we organized in 15, it was prior to that House Bill 1348, it only requires 7. It didn't mandate that there be, any certain, if I recall correctly, because we did discuss it in length, we had meetings about it. But it's always been advisable to have anybody like a county commissioner on the board,
Right.
because it's a good liaison to be able to provide that
Information.
that information back. and
Because
forth.
even at that time, TURA went to that present board and
That's right,
offered,
yep.
but they were not interested.
So, like I say, that would give us one step ahead. But right now, our makeup under the way our plan was adopted, and it was prior to January 1st of 16, we're only required to have 7.
I'm just making sure when you put in your application for renewal, that you're not shut down from something, so, make sure we keep. That's what I'm trying to do.
You're paving the way, right?
Implement,
You're
yeah.
paving the way.
If you don't mind, I'm sitting here thinking, so there's a 7-member board, and you're the only one that's up, or is there others?
I'm the only one. And mine was the longest term to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Because they wanted to stagger them out. So I was the only one that was provided with a 5-year sentence. And I've been the chair, and I was at that point appointed as a chairman. So I've had that position since the very beginning.
Okay.
I've already reviewed, I think John's already reviewed.
Everybody.
I think I have one more here.
Okay, so that's happened already, okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's all I can think of at this point. So, if we wanna do that again, review my revisions and compare them with what's in there already, see if I truly make sense of what I'm saying. And if you wanna make any additions to it or any of the changes, get them redlined, get them to Brittany, so we can make an adjustment on it. It's in, a word processor at my office, so we can make those changes easy enough. Like I say, I honestly think that something has to be. On that same line, we do have an application in, we think that we'll receive today. It needs to be reviewed, and I don't know that we wanna do it, can't do it today because it's not on the agenda. But we need to get a couple of us to be looking at it. Who would like to look at it? You wanna look at it with me, or if 2 members of the commission like to take it on? Fine with me.
So when we look at this application, we're really going to take it to this, the one that's now in existence, and check off how it met the
Yes.
requirements.
It's gotta follow current policy, current guidelines. We can't change that. It is what it is.
And this application then wouldn't be considered even after review until next meeting, correct?
Yes, okay, yeah, but we have to look at it, the sooner the better, so we can start, going forward, or ask the applicant for any other information that needs to be that's necessary to complete the application. So, who has to be the review committee? Has to be, can't be any more than 2. I mean, we'll bring it back to the entire commission, but, you know, no two can meet, so, no more than two can meet, so.
And we're gonna use the current, what we have.
It'll be current
currently have in place.
guidelines as of September of 18.
Can I draw straws?
I'll volunteer as one.
Who was,
You're the chair.
I don't necessarily mean though, that.
But you got the
I'm
most
opening it up.
You have the most
You have the most experience. in
Well,
it.
that's it, somebody with experience.
Yeah, you need somebody
But
with
you-
experience.
Someone's more experienced than a rookie here, we got two of these.
So by default, I'm gonna be on there, huh? Okay, so that, with that said, it'll be Commissioner Valani and myself.
And
Well,
if for some reason Commissioner Valani cannot make it, I would be happy to do that.
Okay, agreement with everybody? Okay, we'll look at it and, take it to the next step. Anything else we need to mention in the work session? Get ready to go to regular. We'll go by what the clock on the wall is. It is 6:35 p.m. It was November the 14th, 2019, and this is the regular meeting of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 1 is roll call.
Bolton? Leone?
Here.
Lopez?
Here.
Matei?
Here.
Terrabino? Valani?
Here.
Grego?
Here. For the record, Commissioner Bolton did let me know by text message yesterday that one, she couldn't make it to the Southern Colorado seminar that we went to this morning. And I have not heard from Commissioner Terrabino. You did?
Yes, I spoke with him today and he said that he did have something else scheduled at the same time, but he was hoping to make it over, so.
Could be a problem. Okay, item number 2, approval of minutes. Everyone was provided with an advance copy of the minutes for last month's meeting, October the 10th. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to
Approval?
approval of minutes.
Motion is by Commissioner Leone. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Roll call.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Abstain.
Matei?
Yes.
Valani?
Yes.
Grego?
Abstain. Item number 3, acceptance of financial report. We have in front of you all the information that was provided. Brittany, is there a program that we use for this? How do we compile the financial information?
It's just an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. One of the things that and right now it's not applicable because we don't have any development agreements. What, that money that we had 2 development agreements and, one was substantial, the other one ended up in a refund. But there are monies that we have to account in our general fund, and I think it makes it, in the end, when we review that, I think, to me, in the end, and after I look at it, I mean, not cows out of the barn, but I think if we have to do that again, my suggestion is that we do segregated accounts, we dedicated accounts for those, and, muddy the waters for ours. And so I'm thinking that if we do it again, we don't have any right now, but we have 2 that we work with, and one of them had a lot of entries in it. Ashton Properties had 1 in, 1 out. There was nothing there. But the one we had with Laporta, it was extensive. It created, when we get to it, there was a carryover of a deficit from 2018 into 2019, which got paid. But the fact of it is you have to look at all these things. So my suggestion, and nothing we can do with it now, but when we do that, if we get to do that in the future, I've not a problem with it. But I think we want to not administer those funds through our general fund. I think it created a problem. If you look at it in the end, because it brings to me questions, because if I look at the amount that and I'm not looking at the revised one that Brittany just provided, but looking at the numbers from the one that we had, and there was some numbers here that I didn't understand before, but still there now. But there's a difference between our ending the checking account balance at the time that it was the end of most recent 209,870. We've had the annual revenue with very little expenditure. We've got annual revenue of $217,132. So that's a $7,200 difference, $7,261. The other part of it, which it has to do with that money going in and out for, Ashland Properties, $10,000. So if you take it, you take the beginning statement, the 7261 difference plus that 271844, come out to just under $10,000. There's $19.95, and I can't figure out where it's at. As an FYI. So I know, but, and so, you know, as we go into it in the future, if we do those, we're gonna do our general account. Without any of those, it's gonna be just for those things that we do. Any other development agreements or anything else we take on, we're gonna have to take on a segregated accounts, because this one has a lot of activity in it that affected everything. You know, the monies are there, but it's just.
But it's
the way-
really not.
Yeah, it's an accounting nightmare when you really come down to it. So.
It's hard to figure it out.
Let's see. So going back, there is an amended budget, not an amended budget, but an amended, financial information, which changed slightly because of the payment to DCI, right? Registration for the Southern Colorado Summit. So that changed, from what we had, down by $105. 105?
Right.
105.
$35 for the three of you, but.
Yeah,
a
so,
piece.
yeah, so if you look at it, it's, you know, the difference is from the amended budget, amended, financial she provided us, and our seating tonight for that, what you got online, is it's $105 difference, as an FYI. Anybody have any other questions on it? And maybe I need to bring up something else. I know I have to bring up something else. I've been going through a lot of my minutes from the past
There's
few
also
days.
there's also $10 on there.
That's
That
the
wasn't
urban
on-
renewal booklet.
Yeah,
Remember the PDF from the last
So
one?
the total difference is 115.
is the one,
That was already, there.
that was already on there.
Yeah.
Already on there. By the way.
I gave
we-
you the updated
yeah.
copy too.
Yeah, I got that.
She brought it in on PDF and then we printed it, and we bought it, printed it, and they sent it in to us with binding on it, would cost us $25 a copy. So we got everybody's copy for $10.
I'm saying the $10 was not on the original.
It wasn't? But it's on there now.
Yeah, it is.
The other thing, as it refers to this, I don't know, and I don't know if I've ever signed off, but I found minutes going back to 2015, which when we indicated, and Tara was the director at that time, we voted, and I can find those minutes, I thought I had them here, but I've got them. We voted, motion was made by Commissioner Rico at that time, I don't know what it is. Well, we passed that action that evening, that we would have a checking account started with $3,000, which we got, I don't know, from the sale of a property, and it required that there be multi-signatures on there, one of them being the chairman. I don't know if I'm on that or not. But there's action on it. It occurred in 2015, and I can find it. I've got it. I had it printed actually. I found it going through a booklet of stuff, and I have it in here somewhere. But it did require going back to them. It's not like I want to write checks or sign checks, but that is our deal. I mean, because I don't think our checking account got put together that quickly thereafter. There was a delay in it. But I may have signed off an authorization card, I don't know. But we did have action back in 2015 that stated, and that the motion, like, I read it here in the past few days. I spent my day off on Monday reading urban renewal stuff. And there was action passed that said that the chairman would be one of the co-signers on the checking account. Anybody else have anything? Sorry, I took the floor.
So who's gonna find out if you want?
What's that? Wait, check.
Just call the bank and ask them who's on it. Yeah.
So we had a motion on, right? We had a motion on yet? I'm speaking out of turn then, sorry. Motion? Motion for approval?
I'll move for approval.
Motion is second. Motion by Matei, second by Maloney. Okay? Any other questions, any other comments? Roll call.
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4, consideration of bills. The only bills that reading for consideration appear on the check register, one of them for the Southern Colorado Summit, and the other would have been for the payment for the handbooks that were bought on PDF and passed out. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Comments? Questions? Roll call.
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 5, petitions, communications. Go over it.
Gentlemen, Tom Murphy, Blaine Murphy Funeral. I think you guys know me. So in listening to your discussion earlier, as I told you before, I'm interested in the money for the facade. And I just hatched something that's gonna, might work. I had applied for money, or my father had, back in 1992, and he passed away. And when I came to the city, it was a pass-through, and said, we're ready for the money. And at the time, they said, you don't qualify. I said, how can we not qualify? And they said, well, your father passed away. And luckily at the time, Harry Sarah was in there, and he's an attorney. He looked at it, he says, no, your father and your mother applied for it. And so we were able to get it. And it was a dollar for dollar match. It was $15,000. We put in $15,000, had the checks, had the application. I still have the paperwork on this. And it was some of the best money we ever spent. We got to tuck point the building. And at that time, 133, I don't know what it was in 1993, 1886. And it worked really well. As I'm listening to your guys' comments about how you're gonna do this, I got the application, I looked at it, thought, man, I'm gonna spend as much money to try to get this as I'm gonna get. It's not a lot. The point of this is, I think you need to try and make this as easy as possible. I've done a lot of work with contractors here, and if I tell somebody that, come do this, and I'll pay you after they approve it, well, you guys could come in and go, you know, I don't like that. And that's kind of what happened in '93. It was very subjective on the person who said no. They didn't look at a way to say, how can we make this work? It took somebody with a little bit more education to say, this is how it works. So I was like, wait a minute. I'm gonna tell a contractor, it's like, I'm gonna go to Luis's place and get, you know, a 12-pack of beer tonight and say, I'm gonna pay you in 2 months after things get approved. The same thing with funerals. It's like, I'm not gonna do it and then have you guys approve it. So as you consider what you're doing, try to make this as easy as possible, not make it difficult. And the application before was way too difficult. And if I say to the guys, again, I'll pay you in a couple months after they approve it, having been a part of government for a long time, I know this too, like with the tourism, you could submit a bill, they don't have a quorum, doesn't get passed, goes to the next month, something happens, then it goes through the cycle of getting paid, you know, where it goes to the city. So something that should have been taken care of months ago, all of a sudden you're 2, 3, sometimes 4 months later. And I'm gonna ask a contractor who, and they're all busy right now, to say, give me 4 months, but do the work now. Just make it as easy as possible for the amount of money that you're talking about. Because it just, this is like high math and you should be doing, you know, basic, you know.
And to that
Basic
end, that's
math.
where it's being restructured to, so we
Yeah,
have to take
right.
away, to create as few obstacles. We don't want any obstacles, actually. It's not, you know, there are obstacles in there now. You know,
Right.
while it was done with the best intentions,
Mhm.
but it in itself creates those obstacles. You know, I think we want to get around that because we want it to be a successful program and have participation in it. So as written, you know, things can happen, but I think we're looking to simplify it. We
Good.
want it to become a successful program.
And I called Penny Saidi after this meeting or another one and said, hey, you've got this money and I don't know if it's stuff that's coming from you. And so they're working on redoing their application. It's like, I'm doing it now, let me apply. I mean, you see these meetings after meetings after meetings where we're gonna do this, and it's not getting put out there. I'm doing it now, and I'm doing it all by, well, not all by myself, but most of it. and it would be great. That, again, the money in '93, it's still, the guy who, Jim Duran that did it, and a few other people, I mean, it's still pristine. It was money well spent. So it's very helpful to those other small businesses, so just make it simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
I have a question. Are you inferring, I just want to make sure that you're not inferring that we should not defer payment or payment? So,
The money should be available before you start. I can't, and that's the way it was in '93. I didn't tell the guys to do the work, and when it gets approved, because then you're gambling that somebody decides, oh, well, that's not exactly what we thought. I mean, that's what happened at the beginning. When I went to say, okay, we're ready, make the money available, and it was a fight just to get the money available. I couldn't say to the person at the time, do the work, and hopefully we get paid and then you get paid. I would say, make your criteria beforehand, make the money available so I can say to a contractor, I've got the money, come do it. I mean, that's what I've been doing. I've been waiting since January with the bank to do my roof. And now we're gonna wait till spring because delay. And I can't tell the contractor and Trinidad Builders, give me the shingles and we'll do this, and we're gonna gamble that we're gonna get it. Make the money available ahead of time, not afterwards. That doesn't make any sense to me.
the only sense it makes would be if the work doesn't get done, then the money has been forwarded, and there's no guarantee that the work will ever get done according to code. I mean, it would seem that, and I understand, I know what you're talking about as far as construction and needing money available. So, but I'm just wondering if, in the situation that we're in, and the accountability that we have, that if it's possible to do that and still make sure that the work is done.
Who are you accountable to other than the board and the city?
Well, the city, I mean, we're accountable to we're bringing in, the money we're using is TIF money.
Yes.
Right.
So therefore, we need to be accountable to the way we spend money.
Right.
And so it would be, I understand where you're coming from, that you wanna have that, you'd like to see it up front, so there's a project, to be funded, but the project, since the origination of it, it's been a reimbursement program. I don't know that, we can consider that, but I don't know if that would go out. I mean, it doesn't matter, the whole thing of it is the jobs that the applicant says, this is what we're gonna do, and then in the end, it got done that way, should be no reason not to do it. The only way is if there's a variation in what the applicant states to begin with and goes in another direction, that could muddy those waters. But if, he said, this is what I'm gonna do, and I've delivered, the money should be available. I understand what you're saying, because, people changing horses in midstream, I don't think that's, integrity is out the window on stuff like that.
I guess I would make it, if I were sitting on this board, I would make it so that they were financially liable to repay it if it didn't turn out that way. Again, I don't do a funeral until I'm assured that I'm gonna get paid.
Or be
And any
paid in a
contractor.
timely manner once completion of the project. I mean, I see where he's coming from too, then the contractor has to wait forever. Or you get into a position like, say, you don't run again or apply, and we have a new board member, and that board member's got an issue with that project, and then it could still hold the whole thing up too. So,
Right.
Do you have that document?
Which
That
one?
bill, 93?
Yeah.
Maybe if you could get it to Ed and he can evaluate it and see if anything would apply to this.
It was just,
project that we're working on now.
it wasn't even local money, it was a pass-through. So it just didn't make any sense. It wasn't that they were advocating, say, you're part of the community, let's make this work. It was like, sorry, we found a technicality. And that's what I see happening
The
here.
old one, it's even worse, so this.
Right,
is working.
but again, having been an observer here since 2005, and tourism is an example because we've done work for them. Again, you can get into a situation where, here it is, you guys don't have quorum, goes to the next month, something else happens, and again, something that was supposed to be paid. In some of those cases, it was 3, 4, 5 months, and they're like, okay, we found another glitch and you're not gonna get paid. I mean, you know, I think one of the things that we learned when we first came here, a lot of the grocery stores and liquor stores, everybody had charge accounts. And those that stopped doing it as they transitioned in ownership were like, we don't do that anymore. It's like, you want services and you want goods, you gotta pay for it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just seeing where this could get mucked up. I understand your guys' responsibility and liability, but it's also, if you'd said, you're gonna repay us if you don't do it right, rather than do it right and then we'll think about paying you, I wouldn't even bother. Because now you're just gambling.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, unfortunately, you had that bad experience where there was a question, you know, it's questionable integrity of people at that particular time.
Mhm.
But my take on this is, if the second scenario where you said, okay, no quorum, it keeps going forward, my thing is, if we owed money and I didn't have a quorum, I would call for a special meeting to make sure it happens.
Okay.
I would not let anybody be in limbo, that I understand totally, and it would be our shortcoming not to make a quorum. Those that didn't make it, the rest of us would have to pay a price for not being there by coming to a second meeting. But it would happen, I guarantee you that part would happen.
Just my concern.
Yeah, I understand.
The other thing that you brought up, I mean, it's just food for thought, and I think you brought some things to light. I mean, you know, in the regular construction world, you know, you have draws.
Yes.
You have draws. You know, for instance, we have X number of items that need to be taken care of. When this item is done, you take a draw of X amount of money so that money is paid out for the job is completed. For instance, if you have electrical work's done, and it's a $2,000, then the contractor takes a draw out of to pay that to take that portion. So I mean, you know, to give out a whole, I agree with our chair that to give out the money all at one time without any assurance that the work is going to be completed is probably not responsible for us, because of the kind of money that we're using to fund this. But there might be some other ways to do that, so that would be helpful.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
We might consider is that we may be so cautious that we will never give out any money.
Well, this,
Well, you know, I think we walk a very straight line, even because it is not because of our getting money. We need to make sure that we do the right thing, that we're accountable. But there could be some other ways of looking at it and how to do it.
That's why, as you guys are preparing, is my understanding, maybe in the next meeting, just food for thought.
yeah, food for
Right,
thought.
and we might put some teeth in it as a lien on the property if, and they agree to that up front, a lien on the property if it's not done properly.
Well, except that, remember, that a lien is only, you can only collect a lien on the Friday after the property is sold.
Right.
And so that people on forever.
Yes.
Well, gather your thoughts on it. If you want to address it, give me your wording where you think that we want to work that. Okay, item number 6, any old business? Record item number 7, any new business to be brought before the board? None. Number 8, report by executive director. I'll give you that in the reports by commissioners. Item number 9, are there reports by commissioners?
We might have a downturn in some revenues for the county, which might affect some of the TIF. We do have one of the larger companies in the community that is under receivership now by banks, and some of their revenues might be dropping, so I don't know how that might affect, if it does at all with the property taxes on this organization. Could affect us down the road. We're not sure what's gonna happen as of yet, but I thought I'd bring it to your attention.
Okay. We don't want that to happen, so we won't be close with it. Well, my report is today I did attend the Southern Colorado Summit, put on by DCI in Pueblo. And I have to say, this is the third one that I went to, and this one had to be the best one because the information provided was exceptional. It enlightened me on a lot of stuff that is somewhat, we all share common problems, common concerns, and common issues. Fountain was there talking about what they did. They did indicate that it took them 8 years to collect enough TIF to be able to be effective in what they were doing. So, you know, if you look at, I do have a registry of all the various urban renewals in Colorado, and for those that do put in or were able to put their annual budgets, you know, ours is not that bad compared to some. Some of them, you know, ours, I think last year was at 167,000 submitted, and there are URAs that are actually submitting lower budgets. So they, you know, a lot of action, but they did, one of the things that was brought up by Fox, it took them 8 years to be able to put together a TIF based upon what they were collecting. There was a lot of good and positive mention about Trinidad at that meeting today. There was a gentleman by the name of Ryan McWilliams, who works very closely with Dana Crawford. He talked about what those things are that she is doing, what they've done, what has happened down here. He gave us information on the stuff that he's done in Pueblo. And I mean, it's pretty extensive what's going on. It's sort of scary what they're doing, what he's doing up there. It's not, that doesn't necessarily mean Urban Renewal Authority, but one of the things that Urban Renewal Authority, if anybody's looked at those things that Urban Renewal has done in Pueblo, they are very, very impressive, up to including ownership of that convention center,
Yeah.
the Riverwalk area. I mean, they are a very impressive organization, and they have massive annual budgets, but they do very well. What else did they say up there today? I met with someone, the people that sat on both sides of me today. One of them was a lady that works, and I left her card, so I read it. She is now working with the Brownfield program. She works with EPA. Her name is Julie Kinsey. I don't know if you met with her, but she said she's planning a trip to come to Trinidad. Just look, she's, as much as she's heard about Trinidad, she wants to come to Trinidad. But her name is Julie Kinsey, and she's now she's actually a scientist with the EPA, but she now went on the Brownsville side. And then I spoke with another young lady. Her name is Ashley Winans, and she is with an organization called Neighbor Work, Southern Colorado, I think it is. She says she has familiarity with Trinidad because she has worked with or talked to people regarding the sustainable living. I don't know if it's that homeless shelter thing, but she's aware of Trinidad. So we exchanged information today, and I'm going to look in to see what it is, because they do a lot of stuff involving the housing, and we work with a lot of organizations like Chaffin and everything else. So, you know, it did work for networking. So if I brought back anything, I can't say that it was a heck of a program today. It was one of the best. I did not get to stay because the presenters actually overran. There was a gentleman that was from Canyon City. He's driving he moved back there from, he's a developer out there. But the guy, I would hope that there's a way that at some point in the future he can provide a presentation in Trinidad, because he was very impressive in what he gave as far as small town redevelopment. And you know, he painted the picture of, or gave the details on Canyon City, which he says is, you look at it and you think that it's, oh, you know, because of 14 prisons. He said it isn't what it seems to be. He said there's a lot there that needs to be done, and they gave us their issues and problems that they've had to undergo in the areas where they're at. But the guy was very impressive, and if he and Ryan McWilliams would come to provide one of those in Trinidad for, I mean, it's really, really informational what these gentlemen put out. I mean, I was impressed, but they overran, and I was unable to stay to the other part. But there was a presentation as project management, and it has to do in, and I'm going to ask for the PowerPoint part of that presentation, because it's questions on how you go ask how your TIF is being determined at the county, and you know, to make sure that all the proper properties are being assessed. and we're receiving our TIF and whatever else. But that seems to be a common problem with a lot of other counties and or URAs. They don't know if the money.
So it wasn't just here?
It wasn't just here. And so, that was one of the topics, but I had to leave because I had to get back to come to this meeting, but, I'm gonna ask for the PowerPoint presentation on that. But there was, a lot of commonality in the, goals and problems that we all face. Any other things? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
So moved.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
I'll take it.
Yeah, so is there a motion and a second?
I made a motion.
I'll second.
If there are no dissenting votes, we're adjourned. Okay, sorry.